So I'd like to know if you can hear me. Okay. Um, so I have titled this presentation Your Money or Your Wealth. It's already 6 minutes and I believe it's going to be a short one, hopefully. And I hope you guys can hear me because I'm not so sure. So I'll start with my story. I'll start with my story, which is basically why I do what I do because I believe that until people understand the why, they may not be they may not be in a position to really make that definite, or should I say, um, concrete decision to actually, you know, go through with whatever it is in life that they have decided they want to do. So I'll be spending the next few minutes telling you why I do what I do. That's why I'm teaching um, finance, personal finance, investing, and wealth today, and also why I even began this journey to wealth because this is my own story of how I began my journey to wealth. I've told this story a lot of times, but I think that it's the kind of thing that I have to continue telling until I leave the earth because it's really what made me realize the need to think of personal finance is different from what I was brought up to believe about personal finances. So around the year 2001, from observing my dad's mistake. So when I say my dad's mistake, my dad was he was a personnel manager. That's as at 1992. He was personnel manager of an oil company in Nigeria. So that basically gives an idea of how rich he was, right? But as at the year 1994, he was broke because he left the company some 2 years before then, and with a large family and not having investments, which I know now, I didn't know then, and a couple of other things, he wasn't able to hold his finances together. But unlike most people that I know or that I discovered later, he was, in his own case, he was able to still, you know, push until his oil servicing firm, picked up. And then for a second time, he made a lot of money. And unfortunately, he still ended up broke. But before he ended up broke this second time, around 2001, also observing some of the people he employed, some of our neighbors. These are people who also were in um, um, the field of, his own kind of business, which is basically working on in oil companies too. These guys had retired and were paid off huge sums of money, but within a period of 3 5 years most of them become broke. So that was what piqued my interest at first, you know and of course some of them will die because of that. So that was what piqued my interest at first, and I began to do my personal research because for some reason I just believed that my dad was still making the same mistake he made the first time, you know and I needed to understand. And for me personally, I was going to study geology so I could get in the oil industry too. So I needed to understand what they did not know. I needed to understand what I would do with money so that I can, you know, so that I won't end up that way. So that I can actually create and sustain wealth. So that was my quest roughly as at that time. So that's how my journey to wealth began. So I started reading. This was in 2001. I was just about to get into the university then. Started reading a lot of books, Think and Grow Rich, Read That, Poor That, all of those books. The book by a guy called Michael Leboff, The Millionaire in You, and all of those books. But beyond just reading books that were not written by Nigeria, I think I read just a few books that were written by Nigeria on the subject of investing. Um, I traveled around a bit, to ask questions from people who worked in brokerage firm and investment companies and the likes. But the thing was, I wanted to understand that beyond making money, was there anything else one could do to keep their finances sustained? So it was about 5 years later from my initial quest that I began to invest. I actually started investing because by then I understood what the problem was. It was that apart from making money, there is something else you do with some of the money you make, which was called investing. And that something else was basically buying into other businesses as a part owner. So I started that journey of investing. And it was in 2008 that I established Money Culture Investment Solutions Limited. And the purpose was to teach people everything I had discovered in the 7 years before 2008. And then that eventually led to setting up, an investment service company that would basically help people make these investments and manage it. Because I also realized, I learned that investing wasn't a one-off thing. It was a lifetime. It was something you needed to do for a lifetime. So, and since I was now committed to doing that for myself and my family, I decided that I could build an organization around that, and it's something I'm still doing up till date. However, what was and is still the major driver of this entire thing is that um, when my dad finally passed on, in terms of finances, there was not much left for us because by now I understand why. He did not really have a good grasp of what investing is, even though he made a whole lot of money. And I guess that if you are listening to me, you would know one or two persons, or perhaps more, with the same story. This story is everywhere, you know, from politicians to oil company workers to big businessmen. You just find out that, especially in Africa, you find out that people hardly ever transfer financial wealth from one generation to the next. That's because they don't understand how to do it. So for me, I believe that every family should own generational wealth and be free from financial slavery, which is slavery to money. Because I watched my dad work for money until he was aged and passed on. So, and how you can become free from this financial slavery or slavery to money is by understanding and then imbibing the principle of economy ownership. So I would explain what that means in a bit. It's a simple principle. It is just the application of it that may be difficult for people to carry out. So here's what I learned about financial slavery. So remember that my initial journey was, what do I do with money, with the money I am going to be making, and the monies I was receiving then as a student. I was making some money, receiving monies, of course, upkeep and all of that. But this is where I say that for me personally, I think that my gifting, I realize that I have a gift for accuracy, for research, for wanting to understand things from bottom up. So in my quest to learn investing, I dug so deep that I began to realize that the essence of investing wasn't even because I wanted to make money. I began to come across the concept of financial slavery, and then that got me to eventually discovering Leo Tolstoy and his book, The Slavery of Our Times. And on the left there, you can read a bit about who Leo Tolstoy is. He was actually a renowned Russian philosopher. And in his book, The Slavery of Our Times, I would show you two quotes that basically um, redefined everything I was thinking, even about investing. I didn't discover this guy up until about the sixth, not even the sixth year, I think about the seventh or eighth year into all of this, you know. So I then realized that what I personally and every other person was up against was something that is more than poverty, such that one can be rich, and it was by design that one can be rich and yet not really be the owner of his riches. He will think he owns it. So that's what I discovered. And in the first quote from that book, this is the first quote from the book. I'll read out two and just talk about it briefly, and then we move on. So the essence of all slavery consists in taking the product of another's labor by force. So what that basically means is that the reason for slavery is that the slave masters want to take the product of other people's labor. The reason for slavery is not mainly about the slave. And so if you watch all those slave movies, you see that for weak slaves, they will just kill them. They will all push them out. So it's not that people were enslaving other people because they just wanted slaves. No. If you get this clearly, then you get what I'm saying about financial slavery really clearly. The reason for slavery is the product of another person's labor, and you want to take that by force. Of course, no normal person would willingly just work, and then take all that they have worked for and give it to another person, when it's not charity. So that's the essence of slavery. Now, he now went further to say, so you understand that the slave master does not really want the slave. What they want is that the person should work, and then they take the produce of that work. Now we've established that, right? So he went further to say it is immaterial. In other words, it does not matter whether this force be founded upon ownership of the slave or ownership of the money that he must get to live. So what this also means is that now, before now, it is that they would have to own these slaves. The way they applied force to get that produce from the slave is that they would own the slaves directly and force them to go and work in fields and all whatnot. And then of course they'll be the ones to reap the benefits of all that work. But Leo Tolstoy is saying this, that it doesn't matter whether it is the ownership of the slave, or another way they enslave people is that they then own the money that the slave must get to live. So in essence, the new type of slavery is in the monetary system. So what that means is that the moment you understand that if you use any fiat currency, whether it's naira or dollar or pounds or yen, whatever, that is being created by a central bank and controlled by a central bank, you may not have realized it. Once you are using any of these currencies, the money is yours, but the currency is not yours. In other words, the means by which you own that money, the network, the system is not your own. You are renting that system. So this is even why, for example, governments can freeze your account. You say it's your money, except if you are holding that money physically. Government can freeze your bank account. The money is yours, but the system is theirs. You get the idea. So they can stop their system, they can stop you from using their system by freezing your account. So that begins to, but that's just the extreme aspect of this slavery we're talking about. But the example I just gave gives you a clear picture of the fact that you are actually not in control of your money, even though the money is your own, right? That's the point I'm trying to make. And here's another quote from Leo Tolstoy. Money is a new form of slavery, and distinguishable from the old simply by the fact that it is impersonal, that there is no human relation between master and slave. So basically, he has just buttressed, the things I've been explaining. The only difference between this new system of slavery and the old one is that the master does not need to directly own the slave, is that the master owns the monetary system, and it is via that monetary system that they get to, you know, um, collect the product of other people's labor. So, for example, in this era we live in, when you work, the sign that your work is profitable is how much money you make from what you do, right? So the point is, if you are not in control of where that money is being created, and everybody within an economy has agreed that that is the currency they will use as the currency of trade, when governments like they do everywhere in the world anyway, they can create money that has no backing. What that means is that this particular money now, nobody worked for it, and then they can spend that. And the only reason they can do that is because they control the source, the mechanism by which this money is created. By so doing, without having to work, they can spend that same money that we have all put our faith in and agreed that we're going to be using. So that is really how governments And of course, not all in government, the powers that be get to further enslave people. Beyond that, the monetary system is designed such that you do not get to pass wealth from one generation to the next unless you start thinking beyond money. If you are thinking just in terms of money only, with the way the system is designed, all you would have is a lot of money. And by if you have a lot of money and you can no longer work, at some point the money will run out. Plus, of course, the inflation that is eating it up, right? So the option is to then have to continue working for more money. And that's where the phrase rat race, comes into play. So this is one of the most important things I discovered in my journey. And I now realize that investing is in fact, the primary purpose of investing is not to make money. Is not to make money. Is to be free from this slavery. And of course, freedom from this slavery makes you money. It does. But the idea is to be free from this slavery where you don't have to continue working and working for this money until you get old and die. So one of the people that also helps me see the limitations of money alone is Dr. Strive Massey. In this his article from 2016, I believe, titled "You Cannot Afford Not to Understand Investing." This is just an aspect of a part of the article I'm going to read out, where he said, if you do not know how to invest properly, you will never really have any wealth of your own. You might earn a lot of money working as a professional somewhere, even in the diaspora. You might even be a very successful businessman or woman, but if you do not know how to invest, the money will just pass through you like a fast moving stream of water. So you get the point here. The point here is that earning a lot of money as a business person or as an employee somewhere, it doesn't matter how much you are earning. It's not about the amount, it's about the nature of money. Or making that money from being very successful in business does not guarantee that. It doesn't guarantee anything when it comes to financial success. It just means that you are rich. Like he explained, he said, if you do not know how to invest, the money will just pass through you like a fast moving stream of water. That's the temporary nature that money has. It's not really a nature, it's the temporary design of money. Because, like I said, this money is a man made idea. They could have designed it to be another way where it can hold that value and hold it forever. But in any case, this is what we are really up against. So the solution is to understand investing. I mean, proper investing. And over the years, that was what I did, and that's what I do. That's what I'm still doing, even up till now. So, if another thing I learned, or I've learned so far in my journey, is that if you are not able to clearly also define what the ideal financial goal should be, then you won't even know that you are not approaching it, because most people frame their financial goal with just plenty of money, plenty of money, plenty of money. So, with all I learned over the years, I've been able to, clearly outline what the ultimate financial goal should be, which is what I continue to work towards. And then, of course, so the idea with this is that the frame, in other words, the things I'm about to show you list, those are the most important things. That once the thing you call investing meets all these criteria, you are already wealthy. It's just the amount of wealth you have that we are now going to have to, you know, um, talk about. So, the ultimate financial goal is to receive passive income, right? So, what I mean by passive income is this: your passive income is income that you receive, but that you are not involved with. In other words, you don't expend your physical or mental energy for that business to generate money. In other words, you are not involved. You are just a part owner of the business. You are not. What that means is that if for any reason you were to go into a coma and wake up 5 years from now, that system of income would have generated income for you, continually. That's what I mean by passive income. So any other type of quote and unquote passive income you are thinking of that requires your input in the money making process is not passive. I think over the next few minutes I'll talk more on this with an example, like it will make a lot more sense to you. So, however, this passive income has to have these five, characteristic. It needs to be secure. So we're not just saying passive income, for example, that you are not sure of. So it needs to be secure. And the greatest security, or the greatest sense of security, is understanding what you are doing. And this security also comes from how you structure the investment. So this passive income that you are receiving needs to be secure. It needs to be continuous and predictable. So after security, which means, okay, um, you are sure, very sure that no matter what happens, I'm getting paid. I'm going to be receiving income. So you are that security, right? The second thing is that this income that is going to be secure also has to be continuous and predictable. So it's not like you get paid maybe a year or two and then for 4 or 5 years you are not sure of receiving income. So it needs to be continuous and predictable. You can sort of, project based on the income sources. So another really important aspect of this passive income is that, and I think that this is one of the most important aspect of income, or one of the most important aspect of finance. In fact, whether the income is passive or not. So let's even leave this passive income. Let me just digress for a bit. So if you work somewhere, let's say you've been working somewhere for 5 or 10 years, and if you know what the inflation rate in your country has been like in those 10 years, for you to be able to maintain the same lifestyle, your salary has to at least be increasing at the inflation rate. If not, after 5 years or more, you begin to notice a drop in your purchasing power. So it is possible that your employer can increase your salary, right? But not at the inflation rate. So what I mean by that is, if the cost, you are earning 1 million naira, for example, and it costs you and your family 500,000 naira every month to survive, right? And then 5 years from now, or 5 years from when you started earning 1 million, your salary has been increased to 1.2 million. However, it now costs your family 900,000 to survive every month. You are losing purchasing power. That's basically what is happening. That's what happens all over the world to most people. So this passive income, you want it to grow faster than the inflation rate, so that you can increase in your purchasing power, not just amount of money you receive. So the rate at which your income increases is the most important aspect of your finances. It's not just the amount of money you make. Also, eventually, you want this passive income to be enough to fund your basic needs. That's the point you can now say you are financially free. And then You want this system that generates this passive income to be easily transferable across generations. And what I then discovered was that, okay, so that there are some things we call investments, which, I mean, people like my dad fell for. They believed was the solution to their retirement in old age. I mean, some of the things I'm about to list, they believed, and a lot of people do these things. But the moment you don't have, say, the five things I just listed about passive income, the moment you don't have these things outlined, you can be easily deceived, you can easily be derailed. You yourself can think you are doing the proper thing, right? And then it's when you are old, you find out that, oh, all that you did, hoping you would retire in peace and still, be able to take care of your needs and perhaps even a few family members' needs. You find out that what you did cannot, because you did not have the proper knowledge, or you were not doing it properly, what you have set up will not be able to even fund your lifestyle. As the years are going by, for most people, that's what you get to observe. Their finances just starts failing gradually because it was never connected to the proper sources. They actually did not invest, but they thought that the things that they were doing was investment. And the first one of this, by the way, before I list these things, um, I'm not in any way saying that people shouldn't do these things. So the ones that are legit, I'll tell you how to use them. I'll not discourage you from, actually doing these things. Buying and selling of land, in my dad's case, after he passed on, while going through some of his documents, I saw documents where, so while going through some of his files, yeah, I saw documents where that he used to buy land. I saw the documents that he used to sell those same parcels of land, so a lot of large land, for good profit, some 5, 10 years after he bought them. And after he sold those land, there was no money anymore, right? So I tell people that buying and selling of land is a business and you should treat it as such. Don't treat it as anything other than that. It's not an investment. Some people try to argue that, okay, if I buy a parcel of land now for 1 or 2 million naira, and then 50, I hold it for a long time, 15 years from now, I could sell it for even 50 or 60 million. I go, yes, what next? You know, okay, of course, because this is not an entire course where I'll be delving into the concept of value, how you know when you're investing. A piece of land is just what it is, a piece of land. It has potential value, but until it is put into productive use, it isn't value, it is just valuable. And then, even when it is put into potential, when it is put into use, and you are the one putting it into use, you've left the realm of investing. You are not yet, however, in the realm of investing. You are now in the realm of doing business. So if you are going to be buying land, just buy and sell it. Understand that it's a business you can do on the side. Assuming you are employed and you want something to be doing on the side to make more money, buying and selling of land is one of those things you can do. You buy, you hold for say some 5 years. Of course, it requires a lot of knowledge to do this successfully. But it is not an investment, and you cannot use it to substitute actual investing. And you cannot say because you are buying land to sell it later, you're going to put the actual investing on hold. When you get to understand what drives or what makes investing really powerful, it is time. It's less money and more time. Property rentals. The problem with property rentals is that when you rent out properties, the rate at which you receive income from those properties is usually always less than the inflation rate. So you will not be receiving more purchasing power. So some people would want to ask, so what should I do with properties? My response is usually, with properties, go into things like short let stay. So that way you're no longer just doing properties, you are now in the business of hospitality. Even if you don't want to do it directly, you can partner with maybe people who can manage short let stays. So that's a business and not an investment. Treasury bills, fixed deposits, bonds. I discovered that all of these things were not investments, they're capital preservation tools. They are all under what you call money market instruments. And how they basically work. In short, to just put it really simply, things like treasury bills and fixed deposit or bonds are basically loans that companies or banks or governments take from the public and repay the public with predetermined interest. However, when you look at the interest that any of these entities offer on these loans they want to take, they don't call it loans, so they will tell you it's an investment, but it's a loan. I mean, what is a loan? Is it not give me money? I'll give you back your money in such and so time with this interest. That is a loan. So it is actually a loan they are taking from the public. But to make it exciting, they will tell you are investing, but it's really not an investment. In an investment, you will have to be a part owner of an existing business. Without that, it is not an investment. So for me, I'm also not discouraging people to not be involved with treasury bills and fixed deposits and the like. I'm saying understand what they are best for and use them for such purposes. So things like these are good to preserve capital. It's a good way of saving money for a definite period of time. So say I want to pay my rent a year from now, and my rent is, I know this already, a 1 million naira, and then I can go and I have that money now. I do a deal, I make 30 million. I want to just keep the rent aside. I can take it and put it in a treasury bill or a fixed deposit or buy a bond that that ends at the time of my rent, so that instead of just keeping 1 million in my savings account, I take that money, put it in any of these things, and at that time maybe I get 10 or 15% on top of it. I pay the rent and I have something left. But don't for any reason think that that is an investment. It isn't, because again, like I said, if you look at the inflation rate in that time, maybe if they offered me 10%, the inflation rate could be 15 or even 20%, you know. So I'm not getting more purchasing power. I'm just getting more money, and also to an extent preserving my capital. Ponzi schemes, I don't think I need to talk about this. You know them. It's not something we should get involved in whatsoever. They carry no value. Trading of stocks. This thing we call trading, whether it's stocks or crypto or forex, in reality is actually speculation. When you look at the nature of the activity, it is speculative, it is not trading. A trader is somebody that buys something of value from, say, a producer or a major distributor at a particular price, and then takes that thing and sells it to the end user at a predetermined markup price. It's really that straightforward. In other words, when it's an actual trade, the the person doing the trading has a say in the final price of the thing, or in how the price of what they are selling goes up and down, right? In the case of these two or three things I just listed now, which is trading of stock or trading of forex or crypto, a lot of people don't like me because of this. You are not trading, you are speculating because you are not in control of the prices. If I'm selling, say, petrol, I have a filling station, and I bought this petrol at, say, 200 naira per liter, and I'm selling at 210 naira per liter, and for some reason I hear that, oh, the cost of buying petrol now is now 500 naira, I can stop and start selling what I still have for 500 and say 20 or 530 naira. I have control over the commodity I'm selling, the pricing of the commodity. I have control. But when it comes to things like stocks and forex and crypto, in the way you know, those people tell you to come and trade it or to bring your money that they will trade for you. They don't have control over the price, over the direction these things swing. How do you call that trading? So the most accurate word to describe that activity is speculation. And anything that is speculative is now in the realm of gambling. So, what's my point? If you are going to get involved in any of these activities, don't deceive yourself or don't let anyone deceive you. See them clearly for what they are. Yes, people use graphs and all of that, and they will convince you that they know what they are doing. Big banks, multi billion dollar banks, failed in 2008 because of things like this. Were they not trying to predict it also? Did they not have professionals? They do. So it's just the very nature of the activity. It's speculative, it's gambling. So that's that. Multi level marketing. For people who are into this, I tell them that what you are doing is not an investment. Some people will say, come and invest in our. It's not at all. If you are involved in this, you are a marketer of a product for a company, and then you are also a recruiter of other marketers. That's basically what this is about. So you're not investing into any product. You are spending your time and energy marketing the product and trying to get others to come market that same product and you get paid. It's okay. Usually when the product is new and is a quality product. But because of this system of marketing, at some point the marketers get saturated, and then the rate at which other new marketers can join the bottom of the scheme becomes very slow. So of course we've seen this happen with so many companies over the years: Organo Gold, GNLD, Forever, Long Reach. Just name them. They come, and at their peak, you would think that nothing can happen, nothing can stop this momentum. But it's simple mathematics. At any point, the number of people that would eventually join these things are limited. When we achieve that number, whether it takes a year or 7 years, not the case. The increase in new marketers will platoon, and then the benefits you get from that entry of new marketer will also cease and reduce. So basically that's what that is. There's something I didn't say about trading of stock and trading of forex crypto. There's an actual process of investing when it comes to the capital market and for forex. And for forex, first of all, there's the actual BDC, which the in Nigeria, borrow the change, which our northern brothers carry out a lot. And for those who have a standard borrow the change company, those people are not speculating because they usually have different currencies. So where the speculator is worried that a particular currency pair did not swing their way in the position they have taken in the market, the person who is doing the actual selling, buying and selling of currencies is not bothered, because when one currency swings in favor of another, he has both currencies. So for him, his business is basically to add his spread at whatever point you come to buy that currency from him. So I just needed to make that clear. The last thing I'll be looking at in the things that are not really investments are these quote unquote investments with predetermined ROI. So I'm basically talking about agro schemes. I don't think agriculture is the only thing they use these schemes, for in terms of trying to raise funds. But these are also not investments. A lot of them look and feel like an investment because unlike treasury bills and fixed deposits, with these ones you feel like you are putting your money in a business or in a farm. But in reality, the moment somebody is telling you, it doesn't matter what they tell you they are doing with the money. A loan is a loan. So if they tell you come and put money in such and so farm, when we harvest, we give you 60% at the end of 1 year, it's still a loan because you don't own that farm. They are basically just letting you know what they are doing with the money. So the question I usually put forward is this: why would you want to take a loan of 40, 50, 60% as the case may be, when as terrible as our Nigerian banks could be, you can get this loan for the highest you get it for is around 30%. If it's too high, 35% in a year. So why offer more? And then you have institutions like the Bank of Industry and Bank of Agriculture that gives out these same loans at 9% if you have your paperwork right. So I wouldn't even trust someone who would not be able to get the requirements of getting loans from these government institutions and then is going to get it at a very high rate from the public in the name of investment. So my default advice to people who want to put money in this sort of so-called investments is that you shouldn't. Then my own advice to them who run people who run these investments is that make it an actual investment where the investors have a stake in your farms or whatever you are doing. They actually would own a stake in the business itself, you know. So that's that. So that's in the way that it's most of it is structured, is not an investment. So what I discovered investing was, or what I have discovered investing to be, is a really simple concept. It is that you buy ownership. You buy ownership in other people's businesses. It is that straightforward. You just buy ownership in other people's businesses. So what this means is that, be it a bank, an agricultural company, a food processing company, a tech company, it doesn't matter. What you are doing when you are actually investing, in real investing, is you are buying ownership in other people's businesses. That's all it means. So when you buy ownership in a person's business, how do you get rewarded? Or what is your expectation supposed to be? It's the same expectation that you should have or you usually have when you run your own business. When you are running a business, what is your expectation? It's to make profit. So when you buy ownership in another person's business, it is that you want to buy ownership in businesses that are profitable, so that when they make the profit and they are sharing that profit, you get your own share of the profit, depending on what percentage or what portion of the company you own. It's a straightforward thing. It's not complex. The reason why many people find this hard is a pride problem, ego problem, the need to be in control. And so if you cannot overcome that need to be in control of how your money is made, then you cannot own wealth, because wealthy people usually have ownership in businesses they are not in control of. And the reason why it ought to be easy for you to accept this concept is because already in your in your economic life, that's in the aspect of your life that has to do with consuming, you already put your trust in other people's businesses. More than 99% of the things you consume, you are not the one responsible for it. It's another person's company that makes it. You trust their products. In fact, you trust their products and you trust their business such that you believe that 5 years from now, this business will be around to, produce the car that ideally you want to drive, to produce the materials that will be needed to build that ideal house or whatever it is you want to do. You believe in that so much that you begin to work hard to make the money to just buy those things or pay for those services. And yet, some people find it hard to locate these same companies, identify them, and buy ownership in them. But when it comes to consuming, it's easy for them to rationalize that all I need to do is work hard and make 500 million, and then I can afford to do this, and this. All those things you want to do, you are going to spend that money, and you are going to spend that money in other people's businesses. So that's basically the rationale behind it. It's just that many people like to be in control, and letting go of that control is why they are unable to accumulate wealth. So, but the benefits of wealth accumulation is basically something called the law of comparative advantage, which is an economic principle that basically states that some individuals have, compared to other individuals, have certain advantages economically. So, um, in the in this subject of investing, this particular aspect of economics and finance that we're looking at, we're just going to look at money making, how that certain persons, maybe by virtue of the families they were born into, their education, some is just a knack that they have to make money. They just know how to do it better than others. So that's their advantage, right? So however, what you can do as an individual is to leverage on the money making side of these same people. Like I said, if you live in a house that you are paying rent for, the chances that it is from Dangote cement, that the cement used in building the house is from Dangote cement, is very high. And yet you refuse to, buy ownership in any of his businesses. Dangote Sugar Dangote Sugar Refinery is the second biggest sugar refinery in the world. The chances that anything you have taken that has a sweet sugar in it, that it is from that refinery, is almost 100% if you are in Nigeria and the West African region, right? So these are just supposed to be simple things that a lot of people find difficult to wrap their heads around. You know, chances are you either have a GT account or a Zenith account or an Access account or a First Bank account. Same thing. These people make monies off of that money you have with them, and then using their services also. Same with the CEO of Nestle. You know what? You know Nestle. It's a global brand. Then Okomo Oil. They are one of the biggest palm oil producing companies in Nigeria. I think after Presco, both located in Edo State. So the idea here is this, which is the question I usually ask, is that I think I can answer this question for 99% of anyone who would, come around and watch this. Is that if we give you 60 million naira, for example, and then put another 60 million naira as 10 million naira in the businesses run by these men, 20 years from now, the likelihood that you would have made more money than them is very slim. They would have made more money than you. That's that comparative advantage. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just this exactly, in fact, it's the same reason why you are using their products, that they will be making more money than you on the average, for the average person. So it's it's not rocket science. It doesn't stop you from pursuing your own goals. But until you understand that, until you understand the concept of commonwealth, you cannot really own wealth. So it's not, being a wealthy person is not a one man or a one person show. It's your ability to do what you are doing and at the same time buy ownership in what others are doing. And when I say others, I'm talking of others who are doing profitable business or who are doing business profitably. So I'll give you an example of all I've been saying. When you buy ownership in a business, still talking about the law of comparative advantage. So let's assume that in the year 1993 that you invested. Now, the price per share I'm showing you here is actually correct. In 1993, First Bank sold for somewhere around between 2 naira and 3 naira per share. And in my example, to play it really safe, I chose the highest amount they sold per share, right? Because if I use 2 naira, the final amount to arrive at would be really huge. So let's make an assumption that the amount invested was 30,000 naira. Let's say your parents invested 10,000 naira for you in First Bank as a one off investment in 1993. Now, the number of shares they would have bought with that money is 10,000 shares, right? So let's see what would have happened in terms of the amount of profits or the amount of income you would have received from First Bank over the years, and the valuation, in other words, the increase in your capital, which is the 30,000 naira over the years. Those are the two things we are going to look at. So, um, the first year is 1993. The number of shares you owned, which you know you bought, was 10,000 shares. Now that year, from the profits that the bank made, which is First Bank in this case. Now this data is also correct. It's not an assumption. This dividend per share and bonus given over these years is correct. About some 10 years ago or more, I got all of this data from First Bank's website. Even though these days, I think Nigeria, they had a lot of important information. So I'm just basically using the dividends they have paid from 1993 till I think 2014 or so to reconstruct what a 30,000 naira investment would be like. So from the profits they made, they paid 70 kobo per share. What that means is that you receive 7,000 naira for the first year because you own 10,000 shares. That's 10,000 times 70 kobo. That's how we got this figure. So the total income you have earned so far is 7,000. First Bank gave a bonus ratio of 1 for every 1. So the bonus share, so 1 for 1 means for every share you had, they give you another 1. So because you have 10,000 shares, you get a bonus 10,000 shares. In 1994, you are starting with 20,000 shares, and First Bank made profits and shared 50 kobo per share to everyone who owns shares there. So you get 10,000 naira. It means that you have altogether gotten 17,000 naira per share on your investment as income. A bonus of 1 for 4 was given. Now you're wondering why companies give bonus. It's basically just a way of still rewarding you from the profits they made, but without necessarily having to remove that money from the operations of that business. That's what a bonus implies. So 1 for 4, that means for every 4 shares you had, they would have given you 1. So because you have 20,000 shares, that would mean 5,000 extra shares. So in 1995, you'd have had 25,000 shares. So we can keep doing this and going on and on and on. So, but you can see that in 1997, I think just a year before Abacha died, the economy had become so bad. No dividend was paid, no bonus was given. So this is a real business. In 1998, they gave 1 naira per share, but no bonuses were given. So you get this. So the point I'm trying to make is that we can continue to look at the amount received over the years. So 2001 was 79,000, the next year 99, 143,000, 177. Remember what I told you about receiving passive income. Now, let's assume you were a kid. Your father or mother who made this investment for you, they do not work in First Bank. Neither do you. You don't know what decisions needed to be made to run the banking operations. All you receive is a check in your PO box, or they send it to your address and you pay it into the bank. So this is what I mean by purely passive income. And before most of us were born, this first bank existed. Perhaps when many of us are dead and gone, it may still be there. Their companies have been around for 100, 200 years, So again, to still prove that this is not, it's not some kind of Father Christmas, sort of thing. In 2010, you can see that from by 2009, your yearly income would have been as much as 633,000 naira. However, by 2010, it dropped to 54,000 naira. That's because of the aftermath of the global meltdown. So by the next year, 2011, began to pick up again, such that by 2014, it had risen to 667,000 naira per year. And in all that time, the total amount of money you've received, if you add up everything, is over 4 million, 4.6 million from investing 30,000 naira. So let's look at the summary of this whole thing in that time. As at 2014, which is 22 years from when the initial investment was made. By the way, most people, when we say investing is a long term or lifetime thing, it doesn't mean that you start getting rewarded after 20 years. In the example we just looked at, your rewards started coming in actually after 1 year, right? So you get rewarded every year. However, the reward gets bigger and bigger over the years because it's actually a geometric growth type of thing. Then, if your investments are big, of course, you'd get way more than somebody who invested less. If the company is a high performing company, it even gets better. So by 2014, you'd have had 616,032 shares, and with an average share price of 13 naira 3 kobo. The valuation of your shares, which represents the 30,000 naira you put in initially, will be 8 million. You've received a total dividends of 4.7 million naira and counting, which means the total value accrued to you so far at that point would have been 12.7 million from that 30,000. And if we want to know what your the real amount of money you have made is, we cannot subtract 30,000 from 12.7. That would be inaccurate because of inflation. So the first step would be to get the um, inflation adjusted value of 30,000 naira in 2014. So what that simply means is just apply the average inflation rate for that period was 19.02%. So if you work that out, if you apply that to 30,000 every year from 93 to 2014, you would have 1.9 million. So the equivalent of 30,000 in 93 is 1.9 million in 2014. So it is that 1.9 million we're going to subtract, from the 12.7 million, and then we get 10.6 million. So 10.6 million is the actual profit that you are making, right? So another thing we're looking at is the growth factor. How many times did your initial investment grow to become 12.7 million, or to have given you a value of 12.7 million, more accurately put? That will be 423.33 times, or 42,300 300%. So here's the most important or most interesting aspect of this thing. If First Bank is able to repeat the same growth performance in the next 22 years, that initial 30,000 naira will be worth 5.4 billion and counting, assuming the company stays alive. So the implication of that is that if somebody invested 30,000 naira in First Bank for their child, and that child lived for 44 years, and First Bank was also around for those 44 years, the child has the chance of owning investments just in one company worth 5.4 billion naira. So we may now play it really safe by assuming that no, First Bank is only going to be able to repeat a quarter of the performance over the next 22 years, not even half the performance. A quarter of 5.4 billion naira is still more than 1 billion naira. It's around 1.2, 1.3 billion. So you get the point I'm trying to make. Just by understanding what investing is and knowing how to go about it, and of course, waiting it out the very long term, you can become a billionaire without actually being able to make a billion naira. So that's the lesson here. So the implication is that medium income earners and small business owners who are disciplined, who have number one, not just discipline, this insight, and then the discipline to, take out something and invest consistently over a long period of time. That this investment over a long period of time, remember, it doesn't stop you from trying to pursue your other financial goals, business, and all whatnot. It doesn't whatsoever. But you just have to get that insight, form that discipline, and put something aside every month or every other quarter, and then make the investments consistently. So whether you're a mechanic, whether you're a trader, driver, it doesn't matter. So long as you can feed and you have something little to invest over a long period of time, we would have a lot of wealthy families. So of course, the places, or rather the platform where such businesses can be found, is the capital market. And what you need to do is understand how the capital market works, start investing, and continue getting educated as you invest. So, on our own end, what I eventually created, what I established, is a community called the Generational Wealth Lords. So, basically, the members of this community are value investors. When I say value investors, basically people who buy into valuable businesses at different points in time, but of course the idea is to get to buy into these businesses at a relatively cheaper price than other times that same company would have been selling its shares for. So so that's basically what value investing entails. Then we are intentionally buying ownership of the economy. So that's what the community is all about, is economy ownership. And you know what I mean by economy ownership, and I believe you should. So um, we buy ownership of key companies across important sectors of the economy. We do that religiously, year in, year out. From the example you've seen now, so you will not be surprised if another 10, 15 years from now, you hear me pointing out that, oh, this person is a billionaire, that person, I mean, our first client was signed up in 2008. Her portfolio is, well, perhaps I shouldn't be talking about that, but say it's well over 200 million naira, generally speaking, right? So as the years go by, even for those who never maybe attained the 1 billion naira portfolio valuation in their lifetime, the important thing is not even the amount, is that they quickly get to a point where the dividends is able to meet their basic needs, then they are financially free. So that's the kind of community that we have created. It's called the Generational Wealth Lords. So it's education based, which means that what we are doing there is to ultimately help you develop a lifestyle of practical wealth accumulation. And and by so doing, the only way you can do that is to eventually have the mindset of wealth over money. So what I mean by that is, the average person listening to me now, their primary goal, financial goal, would be, how do I make more money, more money, more? And I understand that that's how most of us were programmed. But what should be driving you in your finances? How do I accumulate more wealth, more wealth, more wealth? So that money is just a means to accumulate wealth to you. So eventually, we believe that after a period of a couple of years being in the community, people eventually, if you've listened to Bob Proctor about how paradigms, that's mindsets, belief systems are formed and changed, it is by repetition of information. So the more you hear something over and over and over and over again, something you've agreed, something you know to be true, the sooner you would eventually get that information into your subconscious, where it begins to help you operate at an automatic level where you're no longer struggling, you know, to walk in the light of that knowledge. So that's our ultimate goal. It takes a couple of years to achieve that. As you invest, you will experience consistent yearly income that increases over the years. I don't think I need to explain that. All our investors experience what I just showed you about First Bank. So it's basically what happens. But as the years are going by, the amount increases over the years. And in their own case, it's not a one off thing. We're not doing one off investment. You're supposed to be committed to investing, regularly. And there are two categories of this generational wealth lords community. We have self-service investment platform, and we have the premium investment management. So I'll just run you through these two um, you know services. For the premium wealth management, we serve as your accountability partner, and we help to set up your investment account. We personally do your investment research and execution. So beyond doing the research, looking at your unique um, case in terms of your portfolio and all of that, we are the ones that also execute your investments. However, it's key to note that we do not directly handle any investors' funds. The way it works is that we set up your investment account. It's not with our company. We're not stock brokerage firms, you know. However, we are the ones who on that, so you fund them, but we are the ones who on that platform execute. After we've done our research, we execute investments on your behalf. So that way we have successfully created a an investment service that creates the ideal checks and balance on people's funds. For most of the cases you hear that they ran away with people's funds. You can't be giving your money to the same person that claims to be the one to be investing it, except it's a business deal you are doing with that person. You can't be doing that. There'll be a lot of conflict of interest. But in our course, we explain all of these things, how the capital market works and all of that, and how you ought to actually approach these things. So we give you access to a comprehensive analysis of your portfolio. It's actually online. We also give you access to our generational wealth lots community on Telegram. So in this particular community, it's a community where we have conversations back and forth. You can be part of those conversations, and of course, also a learning platform. Members get to ask me questions, and sometimes other members also, answer some of those questions. Especially old members who now really understand this concept. Every quarter you have the opportunity of having a conversation with me, 30-minute conversation. So things like e-dividends, processing it, we handle that for you. Now, for you to qualify to become a premium wealth, um, for you to qualify, to join the premium wealth management service, you have to be able to invest at least 2 million naira per annum. And then we have something we call the research and execution charges. It's 5% of deposits. So with the stockbroker, what that means is that whenever you make a transfer to the stockbroker, you do 5% of that to our company for the research and execution charges. So this is me basically just laying out clearly what the services entails so that there are no surprises or not much questions asked later. Then the portfolio management charge itself. So how I usually explain this is the two sides of real estate for those who build and rent. To build an estate, there is a cost for building it. I'm not talking about the cost of the material, I'm talking about the professional fees, which you can easily express as a percentage of the entire project. And no, it is not 5%, it is way more than 5%, usually between 15 and 25%. So if you built an estate for 100 million naira, as an example, the amount of money that would have gone to professionals who were involved in that project would be between 15 and 25 million naira. That's basically what I'm trying to say, right? In our case, it's just 5%. However, when you are done with your estate, you usually need a company, an estate management company, who you still have to pay from the monies generated. So for us, the equivalent of that is our portfolio management charge, but it is only 0.25% of whatever your investments are worth at the end of every year. So if your investments are worth say 10 million naira, you get to pay us 25,000 naira. So that's that for the charges. You can always ask questions about these things later. For the self-service investment platform, we give you a guide, right, to set up your account. We also do the investment research, but unlike the premium service where it's research and execution, for this service it's research and recommendation. So research and let you know what you can invest in, but you'll be the one to execute it yourself. Of course, we also continue to educate you via our Telegram channel, but it's a channel, not a group, not a community like the generational wealth lots, like the premium wealth management service rather. And once in a year, you can actually have a 30 minutes personal consultation call. It mustn't be 30 minutes, could be less. For e-dividends, we basically share a guide on how you can set up your e-dividends. Now, in terms of the amount of money you should invest yearly, it's at your discretion, but we usually advise that you do a minimum of 300,000 naira a year. The reason for that is because the subscription fee for this service is 49,000 naira a year, flat rate. So that's basically what both services are about under the generational wealth lodge, right? Now, how do you become a member of the generational wealth lodge? Like I said, everything we are doing is education based. An enrollment slash course fee of 157,000 naira. So what this means is that the enrollment fee is also the course fee, because every single person in our community has to go through a course, and the course is the Wealth and Investing Exposition course. So after you pay this fee, you access the course, you complete the course, then you choose whether you want to be part of the premium investment management or the self-service investment platform. Now, the self-service investment platform is free for the first year, so you will not be paying that 49,000. Once you enroll, you go through the course. If you want to go for the self-service investment platform, it is free for the first year. So the Wealth and Investing Exposition is a 6 hour plus course. It's online, it's on Seller, and the format is this same format I'm using to, do this presentation. So this is what is a 7 part course broken into smaller videos. So part one is on foundations. Basically, we're laying the foundation. So the way the course is designed is an interesting design. The beginning of the course is not talking about investing and numbers. We are basically establishing certain um, principles accurately at that. So once those principles are established, then we can now build economics, and then we eventually get to investing and get to talk about numbers and all of that. So it's a 6 hour plus course broken into small bits in terms of the videos. And you know, um, I'm yet to I'm yet to see any other course, at least within my space, because I'm somebody who has read and paid for courses over the years, attended, read a lot of books, that is as insightful as this course. Because some of the things I teach here, I did not learn from book. They were just insights, you know. And then in reality, the course is actually mind shifting. So here's some of the responses to, you know, from people who have attended the course. This from Amaka Donald Ibe. Said, I think when one really internalized the thoughts here, it's no longer about making 6 figures, 7 or 8 figures like people brandish or they talk about influence. What if you have all that and then die broke in financial slavery? Except for those who have Chuck Finney's mindset. Chuck Finney is apparently a guy who doesn't care about tomorrow. Learned a whole lot. There is a shifting and reinforcement of the new knowledge I have started gathering. The solution of financial freedom is outside of me, and that is wealth accumulation. I need to know so I can be free from the idea that I must keep working for money. That analogy about the shrewd Igbo businessman drove the point home. I wish I had more time. I would have told you about this shrewd Igbo businessman analogy, but we'll just leave it for perhaps some other time. It is not enough to believe you alone can grow the returns of that cash, but one needs to think in terms of compound interest and long-term time frame. In fact, it is becoming more clearer. So many beliefs I have had is giving way. With what I learned today, whether you are an employee, small business owner, or entrepreneur, you can actually attain financial freedom. Seems I can see why I don't really accept everything Robert Kiyosaki says, and I lean towards Dave Ramsey. Yeah, Dave Ramsey is a guy you want to look for online and follow some of his teachings too, his free teachings. Just watch this, and I am seeing where I began to get it wrong years ago. I was buying and selling without understanding the market. So here are more feedback. So you can basically go on the link will be in the um, below in this video. You can go on our store. You can read more of these reviews, and then make up your mind whether it's something you like to do. I would prefer to have people who it's not just your money that qualifies you to be a member of the community. It is more of your temperament, more of your ability to commit to something and stay through. The biggest challenge with accumulating wealth is not whether or not you make money, it's your ability to withstand the pressure of your old way of thinking. Even after you have gone through this course, it will not just disappear. So we've seen people come into the community and we've seen them leave. We've seen a few of them that have stayed for a very long time. We've seen how their finances have been transformed. So it's usually that battle that a lot of people face. So we try to put mechanisms in place that filters the quality of people we want to stay in our community. However, we welcome you if you can afford to pay for the course and join the community. And we hope that you will be one of those people who can, you know, see it through until the point where you have achieved that switch in your financial mindset. Thank you very much for your time. We have come to the end of this presentation, but I would like your questions or comments. Just two comments. If you have a question also, I'd like to answer those questions, and then we can call it a day. Thank you for your time. Okay. Once it is 8:32 p.m., that's 2 minutes from now. If I don't have any questions, we'll call this a day. All right, guys. Until the next episode, good night.